Hello, New Mexico, and welcome to another episode of Around the Roundhouse, the New Mexicans podcast featuring the policies, politics, and personalities of the state capitol during the 60-day session. My name is Daniel Chacon, and I'm the state government reporter for the New Mexican. Every week, my colleagues and I will be bringing you the latest news and information from the Roundhouse, as well as recapping the highlights and sharing interviews with key political figures. Our guest this week is Representative Nicole Chavez, an Albuquerque Republican who is serving her first term in the New Mexico House of Representatives. Thank you for joining us, Representative.
Thank you for having me, and good morning.
Good morning. Representative, as I just mentioned, you're a Republican out of Albuquerque, which is a little bit of a rarity here at the Roundhouse. Why do you think that there aren't more Republicans from Albuquerque serving in the legislature?
Well, I think for the past several years, it seems like New Mexico moved more towards the blue side and more Democratic. We used to have more seats in Bernalillo County, but because of redistricting, that redistricted a few seats that were Republican and flipped them blue. I do think, though, that we're seeing the tide change a little bit, especially I think we saw it with the presidential election. So I'm hoping maybe in 2 years from now, I'll have a few more team members on my side because especially, depending how the rest of this session ends and next session, we'll see what issues and crises have been addressed and which ones haven't, and see if people really pay attention to how they vote. Because for me, I was a lifelong Democrat until my son was murdered, and I came up here advocating for change, and my party didn't feel the same way I did. And so I actually worked and learned, I actually met Republicans that were in office at the time and worked with them to pass several crime bills because they really wanted to concentrate on addressing crime. And so I think when you grow up New Mexican and deep within our roots, especially being Hispanic, we're taught you're a Democrat. That's what you are. We help each other, and you don't think any other way. I think until something happens to you personally or in your life, or if you're looking at taxes or business and you think, what's going on? And maybe you really investigate what's happening at the local level. And so people don't really pay attention. I think it's starting to change, right? People are paying attention to political issues and views. And so, again, it is a rarity, but I'm hoping I'll have some more teammates in a couple years.
Okay, well, we'll see. We'll see how that goes in next election season. You mentioned the president. How do you feel about Trump in his first several weeks in office? Do you worry about federal funding cuts and how those cuts will affect New Mexicans?
I'm worried more about the legislation that's being passed through committees here.
Gotcha.
When it comes to Medicaid reimbursement, I know in judiciary we just heard about some facilities that house ICE inmates, and they're trying to shut those down. When it comes to Medicare and Medicaid legislation that we're trying to create our own laws for locally here that are completely against what the federal system is. So my concern is more being a target because of the legislation we're pushing, and I'm praying that that doesn't cut our funds from the federal level because we're pushing back so hard.
So your concern is that we might be riling the Trump administration by taking some of the action that we've been taking here at the legislature?
Absolutely, because, I've been in healthcare for almost 26 years, and so I know that more than 50% of New Mexicans are on either Medicaid or Medicare, and that's all mandated by CMS. And so if something gets cut on the federal side, how are we going to be able to match that? We're really going to gut out our Medicaid funds. And so that is really concerning to me, is how much we're rattling the cage. Are we really saying, look at me, look at me? And I don't want those funds cut because so many New Mexicans rely on that every single day.
A huge percentage of our population here in New Mexico. Representative, in addition to being an Albuquerque Republican, you're also in a bit of a unique club, so to speak, here at the Capitol as a member of a handful of legislators who are married to lobbyists. Does that make your job easier or more challenging? I mean, do you get lobbied at the kitchen table?
Great question. So to me, it doesn't bother me. It's not an issue because we don't talk politics or lobbying. To be honest, I only know one client he has because I've heard several people talk about it. I don't know who his clients are or what he's trying to do out there. So we really don't intermingle, and I try to keep it very separate that way on purpose because there may be things that he is trying to push that I don't even believe in, so I don't even want to go there.
So you try to keep those two things separate.
I keep them very separate, and I think that that's the easiest way. I've known representatives or senators that are married to lobbyists, and I've seen that they've kept things very separate, and I think it works that way. So I try to do the same. And as you know, we come in at maybe 7 a.m. for pre-meetings and don't leave this building till after 8. So the last thing that I want to talk about when I get home is politics.
That's hilarious. Representative, as a first-term lawmaker, what's been the most surprising or eye-opening aspect of serving in the legislature?
Well, I think I'm not surprised about the good legislation that doesn't get heard, but am shocked that, my bills haven't even gotten scheduled. But on top of that, I think the most shocking thing to me is some of the extreme legislation that easily passes through committee. Easily.
Because it's sponsored by Democrats? Is that what you're implying?
Yes.
Okay.
But I think, I'll give you an example. In health committee, they are, and it passed easily on a party line, is setting up state-funded facilities for safe drug houses. And to me, I think that is crazy. If that's not like a picture of enabling, I don't know what is. They wanted medical providers set up. They would test their fentanyl. They can inject heroin, drugs, whatever it is, so that they wouldn't overdose. And people were there saying, it's like a warm hug to our addicts, or, people were calling and saying we wouldn't have to be at crack houses anymore. But I'm thinking, to me, that is extreme. Those are taxpayer dollars, and it's just enabling them to do so with nothing about rehabilitation or let's talk about, how to get you off these drugs. It's just embracing them doing it and making it safe. And I don't think that that's okay, but it went through, like I said, very easily, and that was shocking to me.
I mean, you're basically describing a taxpayer-funded drug house.
I would think, on my side, yes, I think so.
Is there an argument to be made in support of providing a safe space for people that are addicted to, even though they are using drugs? Is there an argument to be made in that regard?
I think they said, it was done in Seattle or San Francisco, and it's shown that it's helped have less overdose and deaths. But, well, yeah, there's a medical staff there, so that makes sense. But I don't think that's helping the problem at all.
Okay.
Again, one of the other supporters were saying we don't have to be in crack houses anymore, so we'll have a safe space. So if that's an argument, okay, but I do not believe that that's going to help the huge crisis that we're having now. I think that that's going to let people embrace it more and not even have to be concerned about having an overdose. Like, is this going to be my last time I get high? No, because there's going to be a medical provider here watching me.
Gotcha.
And so, I think sometimes when you're worried about, is this going to be the time that it kills me? Hopefully that helps hinder drug use. Unfortunately, I come from a family where there's a lot of issues with substance abuse and alcoholism, so it hurts my heart because I know that I have tried everything I can, whether it's helping find rehabilitation or pay for rehabilitation, and it doesn't help because if they're not ready, they're not going to change. And I just don't think that that's the right way to go.
Okay. Representative, I actually met you long before you were an elected official, it seems like. For folks who might not know your story, will you please share how you became involved in politics?
Sure.
And you touched on this earlier.
Yes. So in 2015, June 26th of 2015, my son Jaydon, who was 17 at the time, was killed in a drive-by shooting. And, he was captain of the football team, captain of the wrestling team. He had just been accepted to the Air Force Academy. He was 4 hours away from getting his pilot's license. He was a great kid. I brought them up to be like the yaffle mom, the team mom, the cheer coach, and thought if I kept them busy, that would keep them safe. I never thought about talking about house parties or things that happen there. And he happened to go to a house party. It was 9:30 at night in the summer on a Friday, so it wasn't at 2 a.m. And there was a drive-by shooting because there had been a house party a month before, and there had been a fight with whomever was there. And the way the kids share addresses now on Snapchat, that other people found out that there was a party there again, and thought that I guess the bullets were gonna magically hit the people they were shooting into the house. My son was the only one shot because there were two shooters, and it ended up killing him. And I thought these were repeat offenders, both juvenile and adult. And just going through the judicial system, it took 2 years to get to a trial. Initially, they had arrested people, and then they let those people out. One of the shooters, who was also the driver, only got 1 year at YDC, which is a slap in the face. And the other individual who he planned it out got 18 years, but got out early. Actually, it was last year. They wanted to let him out on my son's birthday early, like half his sentence. And then the other shooter, who the bullet hit him, he ended up getting a life sentence, which is only 30 years here in New Mexico. But he ended up shooting somebody else 6 months after shooting Jaydon because he hadn't yet been arrested. And that poor family had to deal with a plea deal. I think it was only 12 years. And so going through the judicial process and seeing how many times these individuals had second, third, fourth chances, and to see the penalties was just not okay to me. I thought, how could this be? And so I came to Santa Fe to start fighting for changes, for strong penalties.
As an
mom, an advocate, as a mom, just trying to fight for change. I wanted people to know that this was happening in the state, and the penalties weren't harsh enough. Up until last year, I think the penalty for second-degree homicide was increased to 18 years. And that's point blank, you're killing somebody out of the blue, but you didn't plan it, right? Like it was kind of a heat of passion. And we're the only state in the country that doesn't have a minimum for second-degree homicide. And then to say, when people say we're taking them away for the rest of their lives with a life penalty, it's only 30 years. And now that juveniles are offending so early, that really isn't a lot of time. And then if it's not first degree, the sentences are 50% of what they actually are. So they're getting out and they're reoffending and then killing our New Mexicans. And I didn't think that was okay. I've also been fighting for strong rehabilitation, like vocational training. I want more business owners to hire people that are released so they're reintegrated instead of going back to a life of crime. So I just thought that there was a lot that we needed to do across the state that people weren't shouting out and screaming for. And so that's how I ended up here.
Well, on a related topic, a big topic of discussion here at the Capitol is juvenile crime. You're the sponsor of several public safety bills. The one that's getting the most attention is House Bill 134, which actually had bipartisan support, as well as support from Bernalillo County DA Sam Bregman and the governor. First, tell us what the bill would do and where the bill stands. What happened?
Well, it was really just adding more charges to the serious youthful offender and youthful offender, the most violent of crimes: first-degree homicide, second-degree homicide, manslaughter. And then it dropped the age down to 14 years instead of 15 years because we really just wanted to concentrate on the most violent offenders in our state and hold them accountable for their actions. And then knowing that the offenders are becoming younger and younger. I think we had a shooter that was 11 years old this year. So dropping it down to 14 years, we thought would be acceptable. We worked with the district attorney, like you said. We worked with prosecutors. We worked with victim advocates, most people across the state, and for several months. And it was pre-filed by Representative Reeb so that it would have enough time to get through the process. And I was happy that it got scheduled finally, because it took a long time. That hearing was last week, and it got tabled on a party line vote.
So is the bill not going to move along?
It's dead. I think it's dead. We are trying to see if there's any way to revive it, but I believe at this point in time, with 11 days left, it's probably dead.
Representative, as you just mentioned, with just over a week or so left in this session, and obviously there's still time, anything can happen at the Capitol, but at this point, how will this session be remembered?
Extremely disappointing, especially because we had months to work on, I think, the most important crime crisis our state has right now, and that's juvenile crime. And we didn't address it. The bill that we created died. It was tabled. I know when House Bill 8 passed, we were promised, because we tried to amend this bill, Representative Reeb tried to throw in part of 134 into an amendment for House Bill 8, and they said no. And you have a separate bill, and that's going to go through the process. We're not done yet. But to me, it seems like that was nothing but talk, because the bill's dead and nothing else has been done since.
And for folks who might not know, House Bill 8 is a public safety package that includes 6 bills.
It includes 6 bills. The biggest bill I think everybody's talking about is competency, because that helps. But I want the public to know that only is going to affect 4% of the crime we're seeing in the state.
Representative, I want to end on a positive note, and I heard you say recently that you're going to be a grandma.
I am. I'm going to be a Mimi. My name is Mimi. I picked it. I don't look like grandma yet. So she's due on April 27th. Her name is going to be Adelina Jade. My grandma's name was Adeline, so that was a shout out to her. And she's still hoping for a boy someday, so she wanted to keep Jaydon for a boy. So Jade is going to be her middle name, and I'm just so excited. So I can't wait. It's going to be something to look forward to after a really hard session.
Representative, thank you so much. It's always great to see you. Always fun to talk to you. Am I missing to ask you anything that you want to add about the session?
I don't think so. I hope people are paying attention to that House Bill 255 to see if it gets through. And if it gets passed, I hope the governor vetoes that bill to give that $2,000 living stipend to juveniles that have been released from YDC.
And remind me what you all what Republicans are calling that.
The homicide scholarship. And people are saying that's not true, but I want to point out, just real quick, a fact. My son's murderer that got a 1-year sentence at YDC is now under 26 years old, Nicholas Villasenor, who killed my son and was incarcerated, because it is in the bill if you were incarcerated. He would be able to get up to $2,000 stipend for living expenses or school or utilities.
What does that say about crime and public safety in New Mexico?
I think we're going the opposite direction of where we should. We're not addressing crime, and we are, in a sense, rewarding criminals, because they would be rewarding my son's murderer.
Representative, thank you again for your time, as always.
Thank you.
We'll take a quick break and discuss some of the highlights of this week's session and look ahead at what's to come.
This is Patrick Dorsey, publisher of the Santa Fe New Mexican. Looking to reach a wider audience and grow your business? For 175 years, the Santa Fe New Mexican has been the trusted voice of Santa Fe, with unmatched local reach in print and online. In addition to our long-standing, independent, family-owned newspaper, we have a full-fledged marketing team with the expertise to help you succeed in the 21st century. From traditional print to precision-targeted digital advertising, we have the tools to connect you with your ideal customers. Partner with us and see the results for yourself. Advertise with the Santa Fe New Mexican and unlock your business's full potential. Visit us at santafenewmexican.com/advertising or call us at 505-995-3852. Thank you.
We're back with Around the Roundhouse. I'm your host, Daniel Chacon. It's crunch time at the state capitol as the clock on the 60-day session winds down. At the beginning of the week, members of the House Republican caucus sounded the alarm on what they said was inaction on issues important to New Mexicans, and they blamed Democrats, who are in the majority in both chambers. State Representative Rebecca Dow of Truth or Consequences said Republicans have been willing to compromise and work with lawmakers on the other side of the aisle, but she said they've been blocked by progressive Democrats.
It's really unfortunate that we're asking you to be here with us today when we're 48 days into a legislative session. We have 12 days left to deliver on the promises we made to New Mexico citizens. These are promises that the House and Senate Democratic Party said they would deliver on. Citizens demanded us to take action on crime, on health care, and on affordability. Yet here we are, 12 days left in the session, and very little effective policies have been passed.
Representative Andrea Reeb of Clovis echoed the sentiment and expressed disappointment a bill she was sponsoring that was aimed at addressing juvenile crime died in committee.
The thing is we keep kicking this crime problem down the road, and we're not doing anything about what New Mexicans want us to do. As you heard, I believe it was Saturday, we now have what we're calling the homicide scholarship. We're actually rewarding delinquent offenders, violent delinquent offenders, by giving them $2,000 a month for utilities and housing and free school, and it's ridiculous. I mean, we are encouraging actually people to be delinquent offenders and serious violent offenders.
Reeb, a former prosecutor, said that while time was running out in the session, lawmakers still had time to do more to tackle crime in New Mexico.
Mexicans are electing us to get this done, and it's so frustrating, and it makes me so angry that we are still here on day 12 days left, and nothing significant is passed that's going to keep our New Mexicans safer. So I hope that with the 12 days left, we will continue to fight, we will continue to address this, and hope we can get this heard another way, maybe on the Senate side, we'll see, but we're not giving up on this issue because this is what New Mexicans want, and we're listening to them.
House Speaker Javier Martinez of Albuquerque said he respectfully disagreed with his Republican colleagues, saying lawmakers have advanced bills dealing with affordability, health care, and crime.
Look, juvenile crime has to be attacked through different strategies. One of them is reforming CYFD. Kids committing crimes are in households, in families that are broken, that are struggling. Where is CYFD to intervene before the child becomes a criminal, or that child becomes commits a crime? You saw this House in unanimous fashion, with a lot of Republican support, unanimous support, fly through this House on Saturday, I think it was, a number of different CYFD reform bills. First time that's ever happened. That's moving forward. It is now with the Senate. I'm hopeful that they will get those up to the governor for her signature before too long.
Martinez noted the House also passed another juvenile justice bill, House Bill 255. Here's how he explained what it does.
It holds juvenile offenders accountable by ensuring that the clock no longer stops when they abscond from probation, but it also ensures that they're getting the services that they need, right? Because locking up the kids into a system where their basic needs are not being met, they're not being provided with an education. I've heard in some cases they're not even provided with a fresh change of underwear. And these are children, right? What makes us think that they're being provided with the actual behavioral health and restorative and rehabilitative programs that they need to get better, right? House Bill 255 will ensure that these kids get better so that when they come out of the system, they are ready to contribute to society as anyone else and not fall further into the dark path of crime.
Martinez said the notion there has been inactivity around the juvenile justice front is baseless.
Now, there might be a difference of opinion. The other side may want to just lock kids up and throw away the key, and that's fair. That's for them to decide. But our caucus will continue to be thoughtful to ensure that every kid in every community is protected and kept safe.
Politics aside, It's a race to the finish as lawmakers continue to debate a number of high-profile bills, including a contentious proposal to stand up a paid family and medical leave program in New Mexico, which is currently undergoing thorough scrutiny by the Senate Finance Committee. Expect lawmakers to work into the night and perhaps into the wee hours of the morning in the final stretch of the session. And of course, expect the New Mexican to be there to bring you the latest news and developments from the Capitol. My thanks again to Representative Chavez for joining us, and thank you for listening to Around the Roundhouse. Join us each week as we share the latest from the Capitol by subscribing to our podcast through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. The New Mexican has had, and will continue to have, a devoted team of reporters and photographers at the Roundhouse through the remaining days of the session, and will be there until the very end. To stay informed and get the latest news, follow our coverage online at SantaFeNewMexican.com, where you can also subscribe to our political newsletter, The Roundhouse Report, for updates sent directly to your inbox. Until next time, New Mexico, I'm Daniel Chacon, and this has been Around the Roundhouse.